Is there anything more fascinating than the idea of a divine language, used not only to shape the universe but also to create a bridge between humans and angels? The ancient mystics believed that this language, lost in time, contained the secrets of creation and could unlock celestial knowledge. Among prophets and sages, this search for a primordial language has deep roots and resonates through different spiritual traditions. However, it was only in the 16th century, with John Dee and Edward Kelly, that angelic visions brought this lost language to light, the Enochian language. What is the true story of this language? And more importantly, what powers does it still hide within its intricate symbols and words? Mystics have always believed that, in the beginning of time, there was a pure language, a perfect form of communication between God and man. This language, called celestial or angelic, was said to be the original code of the universe, the language with which the Creator himself named the stars, planets, and all of creation. But with the fall of man and the confusion of languages at the Tower of Babel, this language was fragmented, becoming only a shadow of what it once was. This idea of a divine language is not exclusive to a single culture or religion. Various ancient traditions speak of a perfect language that, at some point, was lost. The Egyptians referred to it as the Book of Thoth, a magical manuscript that contained all the knowledge of the universe. In Hebrew traditions, we find the Sefer Raziel, the Book of Angelic Secrets. What these texts have in common is the belief that the divine language could be rediscovered, and with it, the power to shape reality. It was in this context that the figure of Enoch emerged, a prophet briefly mentioned in the Bible, but whose apocryphal stories bring fascinating details. Enoch was said to be one of the few humans to walk with God and be taken directly to the heavens without tasting death. There, he received visions of the future, revelations about creation, and access to the celestial tablets, where all knowledge of the past, present, and future was inscribed. The Book of Enoch, though excluded from the official Bible, describes how he transcribed 366 books during his stay in the heavens, compiling part of the divine wisdom. However, his efforts were largely in vain, as his manuscripts were lost in the Great Flood. Isn't it intriguing to think that such a powerful and knowledgeable figure, with direct access to angels, had his wisdom so abruptly erased from human history? This loss of knowledge echoed through generations, and many prophets and mystics tried to restore communication with the divine. But why was this knowledge hidden from us? Was it a human error or part of a larger divine plan? Until, 7 generations after Adam, Enoch himself became the first intermediary to re-establish contact with higher forces, and his mystical legacy became the key to practices many centuries later. The quest to reconnect with this lost language gained new momentum during the Renaissance, when John Dee, a man of both science and magic, delved into esoteric practices to find truths that transcended the material world. Believing that the lost knowledge of Enoch could be recovered, Dee turned to the angels, hoping they would grant him the key to the portals of celestial knowledge. This is where Edward Kelly, a mysterious alchemist who claimed to have the gift of conversing with these divine beings, came into the picture. Together, they began to unravel the first pieces of a puzzle that would lead them to what we now call Enochian magic. But was this pursuit too dangerous? The visions Kelly and Dee had were not just disjointed fragments of another world. They were part of a complex system, full of symbols and profound meanings. The revelations they received indicated that the universe was governed by an intricate set of angelic forces, and that communication with these beings could open doors to forbidden knowledge. But what would happen if this power fell into the wrong hands? Indeed, this new language, called Enochian in honor of the prophet Enoch, was received by Dee and Kelly through a series of visions that outlined an alphabet, grammar, and even ritual pronouncements. Was it merely an invention of restless minds? Or were Dee and Kelly truly touching something beyond human comprehension? This language presented itself as more than just words. It was the key to invoking angelic forces and accessing other dimensions. Each letter carried a talismanic power, and each word possessed a force that could influence the course of earthly events. This raises the question: how much do we really know about the power of words and their effects on the world? What makes this story even more fascinating is the precision with which Kelly transmitted the texts, claiming that the angels dictated letter by letter, as if speaking directly from the mouth of God. To skeptics, this might seem impossible, but how can we explain the complexity of this language and its unique grammatical structure, which resembled no known language of the time? John Dee believed that this was the language Adam spoke in the Garden of Eden before the fall. After being expelled from paradise, Adam lost the ability to communicate directly with God, and Enochian was an attempt to restore this lost connection. But are we, as humanity, ready to access this power again? The truth is that Enochian remained an enigma for centuries, a secret language used only by a few initiates. But what makes this story even more surprising is how it connects not only to the past, but also to our present. The quest for this knowledge continues to influence mystics and scholars, leaving open the question: what if this key is still within our reach? When John Dee began his spiritual journey, he was already a man of great renown. Astronomer, mathematician, and advisor to Queen Elizabeth I, his reputation as a scholar was unquestionable. However, Dee was not content with mere worldly knowledge. He desired more. He sought to understand the divine mysteries that governed the universe. This quest led him to an intense study of ancient texts, especially those dealing with magic and communication with celestial beings. It was in this search for deeper knowledge that Dee turned to magic, specifically to theurgy, a practice involving the invocation of angels and other entities to gain spiritual wisdom. For this, he needed someone with a gift of vision, someone capable of acting as an intermediary between him and the angels. This is where Edward Kelly, a mysterious and controversial figure, came into play. Kelly claimed to have a unique ability, the power to see and communicate with angels using a crystal stone, an object Dee believed to be a conduit to the spiritual world. During their first sessions, Kelly described visions of angelic beings that revealed a series of unknown letters and symbols. Fascinated, Dee began transcribing everything, convinced that the angels were delivering to him the original language of humanity, the tongue spoken by Adam and Enoch. What Kelly described were not merely symbolic visions but an entire language, with its own grammar, syntax, and alphabet. The angels guided Kelly in the pronunciation of the words, while he and Dee worked together to unravel what would later be called Enochian. But how could such a complex and sophisticated language emerge out of nowhere? Had Dee and Kelly truly invented it, or were they accessing something genuinely divine? The sessions between Dee and Kelly soon became intense and frequent. Kelly, in trance, would relay lengthy angelic discourses, where celestial beings not only gave instructions about the language but also revealed cosmic truths about the universe and humanity's role in it. The words were meticulously transcribed by Dee, who saw in these revelations a chance to attain unimaginable power. According to Kelly, the angels had a clear message. Enochian was the key to opening celestial portals, and only those who mastered this language would be able to access such realms. For Dee, this was confirmation that he had been chosen for a divine mission. But was he truly prepared to handle the weight of such knowledge? And more, what would be the cost of coming so close to celestial power? Dee and Kelly received not only the Enochian alphabet but also a series of sacred texts that would form the foundation of the magic they would practice from then on. Among these texts was the Book of Logeth, also called the Speech of God, a celestial compendium that supposedly contained the secrets of creation and the future of the universe. The instructions to decipher it, however, were obscure, which only heightened Dee's fascination. The Book of Logeth consisted of 49 tables, each containing 49 letters arranged in grids that somehow connected to the portals of heaven. But what did these tables really mean? Were they simply indecipherable codes, or, as the angel suggested, keys to a cosmic power beyond human comprehension? Dee firmly believed in the latter. For him, each Enochian letter carried talismanic power, a hidden force that, when used correctly, could invoke angels and manipulate reality. This belief drove him to devote the following years of his life to deciphering the tables and deeply studying Enochian grammar, in the hope of unlocking the secrets of the universe. But angelic knowledge did not come without challenges. As Dee and Kelly delved deeper into their practice, the pressure on Kelly mounted. He began to feel uncomfortable with the intensity of the visions and the weight of the revelations. Were the angels truly revealing divine secrets, or was it all just a cruel illusion? The relationship between the two men began to fray, and Kelly's faith in the angels slowly eroded. Dee, on the other hand, grew increasingly convinced that his mission was divine. He saw in Enochian a direct path to absolute knowledge, a channel of communication with the highest beings of creation. What he did not foresee was that this path would lead him to morally complex decisions and a series of events that would profoundly affect his personal and spiritual life. At one point, the angels gave a shocking and disturbing order. They said that Dee and Kelly should share everything they had, including their wives. This command, supposedly from celestial beings, deeply shook both men. Dee initially resisted, questioning whether the angels might actually be manipulated by malevolent forces. But after days of reflection and uncertainty, he accepted what he believed to be the divine will, and the act was carried out. This episode marked the beginning of the end for the partnership between Dee and Kelly. The trust between them deteriorated, and Kelly, growing increasingly skeptical and uncomfortable with the angelic orders, began to distance himself from the spiritual practices he once shared with Dee. What started as a quest for divine knowledge ended in tragedy, with both men paying a high price for their pursuit of power and wisdom. Nevertheless, the work of Dee and Kelly survived. Their Enochian transcriptions, although incomplete, were preserved, and Enochian magic would become one of the most influential esoteric practices in the centuries that followed. But the lingering question remains: to what extent is it worth seeking divine knowledge? And what are the consequences of trying to reach the unattainable? Although the relationship between John Dee and Edward Kelly ended in distrust and tragedy, the legacy of their work did not disappear. On the contrary, Enochian magic survived the passage of time, continuing to influence occultists, scholars, and even figures in modern science. But how did such a complex and mysterious system endure? The answer lies in the depth of the revelations they received and in how these ideas resonated with seekers of hidden truths across the centuries. In the centuries following Dee's death, his work was partially forgotten, scattered in manuscripts and diaries. However, in the late 19th century, Enochian magic was rediscovered by members of a secret society called the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. This order, founded by Samuel Liddell MacGregor Mathers, was dedicated to the study of occult sciences, ceremonial magic, and alchemy, and saw Enochian as a powerful tool for attaining spiritual knowledge. Mathers and his colleagues began exploring Dee and Kelly's Enochian texts, realizing that they contained much more than simple transcriptions of visions. They believed that the Enochian language was a key to a superior magical system, capable of invoking powerful entities and accessing realities beyond our own. Thus, Enochian was integrated into the rituals of the Golden Dawn, studied and practiced by many of its members. Among these members was Aleister Crowley, one of the most controversial and influential figures in modern occultism. Crowley, who joined the Golden Dawn in the early 20th century, soon became known for his intense dedication to Enochian practices. He believed that Enochian was a living language, a tool that could open portals to angelic realms and allow direct communication with cosmic forces. Crowley did not view Enochian as a mere esoteric code, but as a way to transform human consciousness itself. But why were figures like Crowley so dedicated to this system? For them, Enochian magic represented more than rituals or beliefs. It was a path to self-knowledge and to understanding the universe. It was believed that by mastering Enochian, the practitioner could access parts of the universe that were beyond ordinary perception. It wasn't just about invoking angels or opening celestial portals, but about changing internal reality. Did Crowley see in Enochian the power to transcend human limitations? Crowley, in particular, used Enochian in his boldest magical practices. During his rituals, he sought to evoke angelic and demonic beings, believing that he could absorb the knowledge and power of these entities. For him, Enochian was a way to break down the barriers between the mundane and the divine, between the material and the spiritual. However, his extreme methods and controversial personality brought him both fame and scorn. But did he truly manage to access angelic power? Crowley's and Enochian magic's influence was not limited to the esoteric realm. In the 1960s, during the explosion of the countercultural movement, many key figures in music and the arts were drawn to his ideas. The Beatles, for example, were deeply impacted by Crowley's writings. The album Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band featured Crowley's face on its iconic cover, and many of the occultist philosophies he advocated influenced the band in creating their music and worldview. Perhaps the most fascinating example of Enochian magic's influence lies in the realm of science. Jack Parsons, one of the leading engineers behind the development of rocket science in the United States, was also a follower of Crowley's ideas. He practiced Enochian rituals while working on his scientific projects, believing that the power of this ancient language could help him push the limits of what was possible in physics and space exploration. Parsons viewed Enochian as more than a set of mysterious words. For him, it was a key to unlocking unexplored potentials of the mind and the cosmos. Did he manage to unite science and magic in a way we don't fully understand? Or did his esoteric practices influence, in ways we cannot measure, the advances he made in the field of aerospace science? Unfortunately, Parsons' life ended tragically. He died in a mysterious explosion in his laboratory, and to this day, the circumstances of his death remain a topic of speculation. Some say it was an accident. Others believe he was performing a ritual that went wrong. But what is undeniable is that even in modern science, the boundaries between the occult and the technical seem blurrier than ever. This raises the question: how far did the influence of Enochian magic really reach? And are there still secrets of this practice waiting to be uncovered? Dee and Kelly likely could never have imagined that their quest for spiritual knowledge would have an impact in such distant fields as pop music and rocket science. Yet, the legacy of Enochian magic continues to manifest in unexpected ways. And while many see Enochian as something mysterious and indecipherable, others continue to believe that it is a tool that can help us understand reality in an entirely new way. Thus, Enochian is not just a language. It is a system of power, a key to the unknown. But are we ready to use it? And more importantly, what doors might it still open? The influence of Enochian magic on modern science, though unexpected, is one of the most intriguing aspects of its long trajectory. The case of Jack Parsons, the brilliant engineer who played a crucial role in the development of jet propulsion, shows how the boundaries between the esoteric and the scientific can be far thinner than we might imagine. But how did a man involved with the magic of Aleister Crowley and the Enochian language become one of the pioneers of space exploration? What was the true role of magic in his discoveries? Parsons, in addition to being a highly skilled scientist, was a fervent follower of Crowley and his philosophy, Thelema. He believed that the power of the human mind, when combined with magical rituals, could open new possibilities in both the spiritual and technological realms. Driven by this belief, Parsons began to practice Enochian magic during his scientific experiments, reciting invocations and using the Enochian keys to enhance his work. But what exactly was Parsons seeking? According to his writings, he did not see magic as a mere religious or ritualistic practice. For him, magic was a science, a way to access invisible dimensions and manipulate the laws of physics and reality. This echoes John Dee's intentions centuries earlier, who saw in Enochian a means to connect the divine with the mundane, to influence higher spheres and thereby transform the material world. Parsons believed that by exploring the depths of the mind and the cosmos, he could trigger a revolutionary scientific breakthrough. But this raises a troubling question. To what extent did his occult practices influence his discoveries in aerospace engineering? Could modern science, even unknowingly, have been shaped by esoteric forces beyond our understanding? Parsons' tragic fate serves as a grim reminder of how these two spheres, science and magic, can clash. He died in a mysterious explosion in his laboratory, an event many believe was related to his occult experiments. But his death was not the end of Enochian magic in the modern world. On the contrary, it continued to resonate through the decades, influencing not only scientists but also artists, thinkers, and visionaries. Another fascinating example of how Enochian became intertwined with the modern world comes from the realm of music and pop culture. In the 1960s, a period marked by counterculture and the search for new forms of spirituality, many musicians and artists turned to occultism for inspiration. The Beatles, arguably the most influential musicians of that era, were deeply impacted by Crowley's ideas, which were directly influenced by Enochian magic. When the Beatles released Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, they featured Crowley's face on its iconic cover, alongside other figures who had shaped their worldview. But Crowley's impact was not merely aesthetic. His ideas about expanding consciousness, spiritual transformation, and practical magic resonated deeply with the message the Beatles sought to convey. Given Crowley's deep involvement with Enochian studies, we might ask, did the influence of the angelic language touch the music that shaped a generation? And it wasn't just the Beatles. Musicians like Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin also became fascinated by Enochian magic, purchasing Crowley's former residence in Scotland and conducting rituals in his name. Like Parsons, Page saw in the fusion of magic and art a way to transcend human limits and access something greater, a source of power that could be channeled both for artistic creation and personal transformation. Beyond artists and scientists, the impact of Enochian magic was also felt in the growing movement of modern spirituality. Practices such as Wicca, ceremonial magic, and even some New Age movements absorbed elements of Enochian into their rituals. The idea that humanity could communicate directly with higher forces using a divine language continues to fascinate many, especially those seeking to understand the deeper workings of the universe. Still, Enochian magic remains, for many, an enigma. Its promises of opening portals to other realities, revealing cosmic secrets, and invoking celestial beings are still viewed with skepticism by much of the academic and religious communities. At the same time, those who practice it claim that it is a tool for profound transformation, a path to accessing true divine power. What we do know, however, is that Enochian magic, with all its mysteries and controversies, continues to inspire those who seek to understand the unknown. Whether in the fields of science, art, or spirituality, its influence can still be felt. And the lingering question is, what else might we discover about this ancient system? Are we merely scratching the surface of knowledge far more vast and profound than we can imagine? The figure of Aleister Crowley has always been shrouded in controversy, but his impact on modern occultism is undeniable. Born in 1875, Crowley was a mystic, occultist, and philosopher who challenged the conventions of his time, redefining what it meant to practice magic in the contemporary world. What many don't fully understand is how he managed to connect various esoteric systems into a single spiritual philosophy he called Thelema. Within this vast web of occult concepts, Enochian magic played a crucial role. Crowley was introduced to Enochian magic when he joined the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn, where he quickly rose through the ranks. Fascinated by the depth of the Enochian system, he saw something beyond a mere set of invocations and mysterious letters. For Crowley, Enochian was a vehicle to achieve something much greater, the realization of the great work, meaning the full discovery of one's true self and true will, central tenets of his Thelemic doctrine. But how did Enochian fit into this quest? According to Crowley, the Enochian invocations and the work with angels, as revealed to Dee and Kelly, were not just about gaining power or knowledge. They were steps along the path to spiritual enlightenment and human evolution. The Enochian language, with its complexity and structure, was seen as a tool to explore dimensions beyond the physical plane. When practiced correctly, Crowley claimed, this magic could open portals not only to the heavens but also to the deepest recesses of the soul. It's interesting to see how Crowley reinterpreted Enochian magic within his own philosophy. While John Dee and Edward Kelly saw Enochian as a language for direct communication with angels, Crowley expanded this view. He believed that mastering Enochian allowed the magician to access a state of consciousness where the distinction between human and divine began to dissolve. For him, this was the essence of Thelema, the fusion of the individual with their inner divinity. According to Crowley, the practice of Enochian required not only technical knowledge but also spiritual readiness. He described the process as a journey in which the magician must purify themselves, both physically and spiritually, before even attempting an Enochian invocation. With each step, the practitioner came closer to their true essence, to their true will. This idea, that Enochian could be a path to spiritual ascension, added a new depth to the system. For Crowley, Enochian was also closely tied to the new era he believed had begun, the New Aeon. This concept was part of his prophecy that humanity was entering a new phase of consciousness, a period of spiritual freedom and enlightenment. Enochian, with its angelic language, was seen as the ideal tool to guide humanity through this transition. It was as if the angelic keys were codes to unlock this new era. Crowley developed complex rituals involving Enochian, and many of his followers adopted these practices. He believed that the invocations and Enochian keys could not only summon angels and spirits but also open doors to higher states of consciousness. This aligned with the central idea of his doctrine: do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. However, it's important to understand that this will didn't refer to mere worldly desires, but rather the true will, a deep alignment with the spiritual purpose of the soul. Another intriguing connection Crowley made between Enochian and Thelema was the idea that the angelic language reflected the structure of the universe. He believed that by learning and pronouncing these words, the practitioner was literally resonating with divine creation, vibrating in harmony with the cosmos. This concept of vibration was crucial for Crowley and other occultists, as it was believed that reality itself was composed of energetic frequencies that could be manipulated through the Enochian language. However, Crowley didn't just study Enochian, he lived it. During his famous trip to Egypt, he reported having mystical visions and experiences that, according to him, were mediated by Enochian angelic entities. One of these entities, Iwas, supposedly dictated to him the Book of the Law, the foundational text of Thelema. Crowley came to believe that Aiwass was part of the same angelic communication established by John Dee, further connecting his system with Enochian magic. For Crowley, Enochian was ultimately a tool of liberation. He saw magical practice as a way to transcend the limitations imposed by society, traditional morality, and even the barriers of the mind. The Enochian language, with its complexity and symbolic power, offered the magician the ability to navigate between different realities and dimensions, both internal and external. This, of course, raised the question: could this pursuit of power and enlightenment be dangerous? Many of his critics argued that Crowley's path was risky, particularly because he was dealing with forces that, according to some traditions, should be handled with extreme care. The invocation of angelic entities or other forms of spiritual power could, in the wrong hands, bring unexpected consequences. But Crowley was never afraid of these possibilities. For him, magic was a battlefield where the human soul confronted its own shadows, and Enochian was one of the most powerful weapons available. In the end, Crowley's vision of Enochian broadened the horizons of this practice, transforming it from a purely angelic language into a tool for personal and collective transformation. He saw Enochian as a way to unlock humanity's latent potential and accelerate the process of spiritual evolution. His work with this language continues to influence occultists and mystics today, many of whom see Enochian not just as a magical practice but as a philosophy of life. Was Crowley right in claiming that Enochian was the language of the new aeon? The question remains open, but what is undeniable is that his reinterpretation of this system shed new light on the ancient teachings of Dee and Kelly, bringing them into the 20th century with renewed force and a revolutionary vision. The idea of spiritual transmutation has always been at the heart of occult practices, and Enochian magic is no exception. From the first moments when John Dee and Edward Kelly began interacting with angels, it became clear that the Enochian language was more than just a tool for communication between worlds. It carried with it the potential for transformation, a kind of spiritual alchemy that could deeply alter the mind, soul, and body of those who used it. Alchemy, in its essence, has always been more than the pursuit of turning metals into gold. In esoteric circles, true alchemy is that of the soul, a process by which the practitioner purifies and transforms their own essence, ascending to higher levels of consciousness. For Dee, the practice of Enochian magic was a continuation of this alchemical tradition, but instead of using formulas and reagents, he used sacred words and angelic symbols. The Enochian language, with its alphabet, unique grammar, and ritualistic invocations, was seen as a key to this transformation. Every letter and word carried a specific energetic weight, capable of influencing the surrounding environment and, more importantly, the practitioner's inner world. Dee believed that by correctly pronouncing the Enochian words, the magician was vibrating in harmony with cosmic forces, and this resonance had the potential to restructure the mind and spirit. But how exactly did this transmutation occur? In Dee and Kelly's writings, the angels often spoke of the need for purification before any Enochian invocation. This purification was not only physical but also spiritual. The practitioner needed to be free from worldly desires, negative thoughts, and unresolved emotions. This process, often painful and lengthy, was essential for the mind to receive and process the energy of the Enochian words without distortion. In this sense, the practice of Enochian magic can be compared to the stages of classical alchemy: nigredo, albedo, and rubedo. The first stage, nigredo, represents purification, where the practitioner must confront their shadows, fears, and negativity. Without this initial stage, it would be impossible to move forward. Albedo, or illumination, occurs when the practitioner begins to access the first levels of higher consciousness, as the ego's barriers start to dissolve. The final stage, rubedo, is complete transformation, where the magician ascends to a new state of being, aligned with cosmic forces. Throughout the history of Western magic, many systems focused on the idea of spiritual ascension, but few offered a mechanism as detailed as Enochian. The structure of the language was unique. Each word and phrase was like an alchemical formula, designed not only to invoke angels but to initiate the practitioner into a profound process of inner transformation. How did this happen? Some believe that the Enochian words, when correctly pronounced, activated dormant parts of the human consciousness, areas that would normally remain inaccessible in ordinary states of perception. This idea that Enochian was a key to unlocking higher levels of consciousness resonated deeply with the concept of spiritual alchemy. Crowley, as we've seen, adopted this view, but he wasn't the only one. Over the centuries, occultists and magicians have used Enochian as a tool to facilitate the process of spiritual transmutation. What is fascinating here is how Enochian seems to work both externally and internally. Externally, it invokes angelic forces, but internally, it transforms the practitioner, as if the words were energetic talismans that restructure the self. But how do we know that this transformation really happens? How can we measure it? In the occult tradition, it's not about visible physical change, but rather a noticeable shift in how the practitioner interacts with the world and with themselves. Those who have undergone the Enochian alchemical process report a sense of spiritual clarity, as if layers of illusion and distraction have been stripped away, revealing a deeper, purer truth. This truth is not something that can be easily explained. It is a direct experience, an awakening. The idea of transmutation through language appears in various spiritual traditions. In Sufism, for example, the recitation of Dhikr is seen as a way to transform the soul through the repetition of divine names. In Hinduism, mantras play a similar role. But what sets Enochian apart is its intricate structure and the fact that it is presented as a complete language, a divine code that, when correctly spoken, unlocks levels of power and wisdom otherwise inaccessible. Moreover, there is the concept of vibration. In occultism, it is believed that words and sounds carry vibrational frequencies that can alter reality. In the case of Enochian, the words are said to resonate at such a high frequency that the universe itself responds. By speaking Enochian, the magician is, in effect, attuning themselves to the music of the spheres, vibrating in harmony with creation. This resonance creates a bridge between the mundane and the divine, allowing the practitioner to move between planes and receive teachings beyond ordinary comprehension. However, this process of transmutation is not without its challenges. As with any alchemical journey, there are obstacles and dangers. The transformation of the soul demands that the practitioner be willing to face their own inner demons, to pass through the fire of purification before reaching illumination. And in Enochian, this process can be intensified by the power of the words invoked. Many occultists have warned that the reckless use of Enochian magic could lead to psychological or spiritual collapse if the practitioner is not properly prepared. Ultimately, the spiritual alchemy that Enochian magic proposes is not an easy path, but it is a powerful one. For those willing to commit to the process, the fruits of this transformation can be extraordinary. The Enochian magician does not seek only external power but complete mastery over themselves, a fusion of their true will with the universe around them. What Dee and Kelly discovered was, in a way, a language capable of shaping not only the world but the soul of those who use it. Are we ready for such power? True Enochian transmutation demands more than technical skill. It requires a complete willingness to be transformed in the process. After all, the alchemical gold we seek may be nothing more than the realization of our highest self. One of the most enigmatic and fascinating elements of Enochian magic is the so-called 49 celestial portals. These portals, repeatedly mentioned in the angelic revelations received by John Dee and Edward Kelly, are not just figures of speech but representations of a hidden system for entering higher realities. The idea that there are doors to other worlds is a constant in esoteric traditions, but in Enochian magic, these portals have a unique structure and play a central role in accessing divine knowledge. The angels explain to Dee and Kelly that the universe is divided into layers or spheres, and each of these spheres is governed by specific angelic forces. To access these spheres, the magician must cross spiritual portals, each representing a level of understanding and power. The number 49, which recurs in many parts of the Enochian system, is seen as a sacred number representing cosmic completeness and perfection. But why 49? And what does this mean within the structure of magic? The explanation for the choice of this number is complex, but in the esoteric context, 49 is deeply significant. It is the product of 7 by 7, with the number 7 traditionally associated with spiritual perfection, the 7 days of creation, and the 7 heavens mentioned in many religions. In the Enochian system, each of these 49 portals is guarded by a hierarchy of angelic beings, and each portal corresponds to a specific aspect of the universe, a key to a particular reality. But how could a magician cross these portals? The answer lies in the Enochian language itself. The invocations and Enochian keys are, according to the angels, the tools for opening these portals. Every word, every phrase, is a vibrational password that activates a specific portal. The angels explained that Enochian words are not just sounds but powerful vibrations that resonate with the very essence of the cosmos. When correctly pronounced, these words can open the corresponding portal, allowing the practitioner to access the plane it guards. These portals are described as non-physical, but rather as intersection points between spiritual dimensions and human reality. 4D, they represented the key to accessing forbidden knowledge, wisdom hidden from common minds. But to cross these portals, it wasn't enough just to know the correct words. The practitioner needed to be in a proper spiritual state. Only those who had purified their mind and spirit could handle the energy and power contained within these spheres. The concept of spiritual or celestial portals is not exclusive to Enochian magic. Many occult traditions speak of doors or portals to other worlds. In Kabbalah, for example, there are the gates of wisdom that lead the initiate to higher levels of divine understanding. In Hermeticism, we have the concept of planetary spheres, where each planet is a door to a state of consciousness. The difference in the Enochian system is that these portals are not abstract or symbolic, but well-defined structures, with specific keys for their opening. The very book of Logeth that Dee and Kelly received, with its 49 tables of letters, was a representation of these portals. Each table represented a portal, and the letters contained in the tables were the keys to deciphering and opening these portals. But the tables were not easy to understand. The enigma of the letters arranged in 49 by 49 grids symbolized a code that only the most advanced initiates could decipher. This complexity was part of the protection of divine secrets, not something just anyone could access. But what exactly lay beyond these portals? The angels were vague about the specific details, stating only that those who passed through these portals would have access to cosmic knowledge, the true nature of the universe. Some believe these portals lead to planes of existence where angels reside, spheres of pure light and wisdom. Others suggest the portals may open paths to alternate dimensions or parallel realities where the laws of physics and time, as we know them, do not apply. What's interesting here is the idea that these portals not only connect different parts of the cosmos but also different parts of human consciousness. By opening an Enochian portal, the magician is not only accessing an external reality but also a dormant part of themselves. This duality between the external and the internal is a central feature of Enochian magic. Everything the magician does on the spiritual plane has a direct reverberation on their mental and emotional state. Moreover, the structure of the 49 portals raises important questions about the nature of reality. If Enochian magic truly offers a way to access these other spheres, it suggests that reality is far more complex than we imagine. We are not confined to a single dimension or reality. On the contrary, our existence is multidimensional, and Enochian magic offers a route to explore these different levels of being. Another fascinating point about the portals is the idea that they are also connected to time. The angel suggested to Dee and Kelly that some of these portals could be used to access different periods in time, both past and future. This implies that the Enochian language not only opens spatial portals but also temporal ones, allowing the magician to travel not only between realities but also across moments in the timeline. With all this depth and complexity, it is no surprise that many occultists have considered Enochian magic to be one of the most advanced and dangerous practices. Crossing these portals was not something to be done without preparation. The power contained within them could transform the practitioner, but it could also destroy them if they were not properly purified or prepared. Here again, we see spiritual alchemy in action, the transformation necessary for the practitioner to be worthy of accessing these secrets. Ultimately, the 49 celestial portals represent not only a magical system of accessing the divine, but also a metaphor for the magician's inner journey. Each portal is a stage of growth, an opportunity to expand consciousness and dive deeper into the mysteries of creation. But, just like in life, not everyone is ready to cross every portal. Each must follow their own pace, trusting that at the right moment, the correct key will be revealed. Enochian magic, with its keys, portals, and divine language, remains one of the most fascinating and enigmatic occult systems ever revealed. From John Dee and Edward Kelly to modern times with Aleister Crowley, Enochian is not just a reflection of humanity's desire to connect with the divine, but also a profound tool for spiritual and alchemical transformation. Through this language, we are invited to reflect on the nature of reality, the multidimensionality of existence, and above all, our own potential for transcendence. By exploring the secrets of Enochian magic, it becomes clear that this practice is not only about invocation or gaining power over spiritual entities, but an invitation to dive deep into our own consciousness. Through the use of this sacred language, the practitioner can unlock portals not only to other realities but to hidden layers of themselves. Over the centuries, this pursuit has continued to inspire mystics and occultists, proving that Enochian is more than just a lost language. It is a living path to self-knowledge and the expansion of consciousness. If you're interested in exploring more about spirituality, I've specially selected some videos full of deep knowledge and fascinating discoveries that you will love. Just click on one of them. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to continue this journey of self-discovery and spiritual learning. Your commitment to knowledge is the first step to transforming your reality.